No, that's great. You have to perfectly into my second the
Oh.
second part of that question, which is there are a lot of ancient Christian
Mhm.
practices which can help us make this connection.
Mhm.
In your experience as a spiritual director, what practices can I work on alongside a
Mhm.
spiritual director, which you really should
Mhm.
hire a spiritual director to come alongside of you. And I can recommend one today if you'd like.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but in all seriousness, a spiritual director can walk us through some of those
Yeah.
disciplines. What disciplines should I be asking about, looking into practicing on my own,
Mhm.
and hopefully practicing with someone who's a little further down the road?
I think my 3 core practices are centering prayer, and I do think that sometimes centering prayer, because it has the emphasis on letting go of thoughts, can feel, like, heady, but I actually move sort of my center of knowing down into my belly when I'm doing centering prayer, and I include, like, letting go of thoughts as well as letting go of sensations in the body, and so it just more helps me attune to what's happening, in the whole being. Lectio Divina can be just a beautiful way, a beautiful way to interact with scripture in a less heady theological way. And depending on how you facilitate it or how the person you're working with facilitates it, you can really create that space for a little bit more of that inner knowing and like that quietness, instead of just immediately going into the head of how to interpret it. And then
Mhm.
I think my personal favorite is welcoming prayer.
Oh,
um, yeah, and Cynthia Bourgeot has
favorite one is welcoming prayer. I don't know anybody who likes welcoming prayer.
I mean, I have found it to be so healing, and yeah, I think Cynthia Bourgeot is who I learned, welcoming prayer from, and she's done a lot of beautiful writing on it. Um, but I mean, welcoming prayer is often used to, well, it can be used for so many things, but I actually pair it with a body scan when I'm doing it with people. And so typically welcoming prayer is more just kind of noticing the emotions you're experiencing and welcoming them and then not giving them power. And I think
Mm,
that's really beautiful. And I think another level or layer of the embodiment part is actually doing sort of this body scan, which is more or less just going from like your head to your toes and noticing like where you might be carrying tension, or where you might be sore, or just anything that might be happening. And then doing that same sort of welcoming practice, but like with what you are experiencing in your
mm.
body. And so those I think are the three core. I mean, those are sort of the three core contemplative practices in general. And I think that the desert mothers and fathers, they had a huge emphasis, which is where a lot of these practices are rooted, had a huge emphasis on embodiment in a way that we've again lost sort of touch with in this time.
Mm. Yeah, I'm a little bit flippant about welcoming prayer, mostly because I, I I'll speak for myself on this. It's
Yeah.
almost like a form of confession.
Mm.
It's confessing that I'm having this feeling and having to receive that they are present, even if I don't
Mm.
like that they're present, and to
Mhm.
understand that they are a gift of the moment, whether or not
Mhm.
they feel good or not. And that's a
Mhm.
hard practice
Yes.
for me. I'll say that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It can be, I mean, it is very difficult, I think, especially for people, ones, threes that tend to be pretty hard on themselves. For a four, I have so many feel I'm welcoming all day long, all day long. Not a moment that goes by that there's not some new welcoming happening in me. So absolutely. These are not easy practices. And so I would recommend, picking one and really trying to, stay with that and practice that and get comfortable with that. Because if we're just kind of hopping around to a million different things, we won't grow in the same way because it's too they're too difficult of practices to kind of skate over the top of.
For sure.
Yeah.
Haley, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thanks
Um,
for having me.
you have a gift of communication and a gift of being fully present.
Oh, thank
And I
you.
can hear the joy in your voice when you talk about what the body does with the soul,
Mm.
the mind does with the heart. Your passion for integration in those four is tangible, even through Zoom. So
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you to all your donors for sustaining it. Yeah, grateful for your presence in this world.
Thanks, Haley.